going on, everybody? Before we start today, Friday's episode, I mentioned that Mike Glover is coming to do a book signing for his book, Prepared. It's going to be at the Black Rifle Coffee Shop in Kalispell. But I said it was going to happen on March 4th, which would require almost a year's wait or a time machine since it's April. What did I mean to say? May 4th. You are correct. So, Mike's going to be here next weekend. Actually, this weekend, because this comes out on a Monday. I'm recording this before it comes out. And if you want to go, then, show up. Come to the Black Rifle Coffee Shop in Kalispell. Speaking of Black Rifle, you guys all know that they are the sponsor of this podcast. And I'll go to their website here in a minute. We can talk about what they have for sale right now. But in about a month, we're going to be going to Normandy. We're going to be jumping in at the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Black Rifle is making all of that possible for me and a group of other veterans. The things they're able to do outside of just selling coffee and T-shirts and mugs and all the stuff that you can find at blackriflecoffee.com, that's what I actually care about the most. The veterans organizations that they support, the initiatives, and doing things like this. I mean, I'm in the Navy, or I was in the Navy. I don't really have a tie to D-Day at all, but the opportunity to go over there, one of the few remaining places on my bucket list, yeah, I'm going to take that opportunity. And they're able to do it because of the support of people like you all, the listeners. And that's why I'm so fired up to be partnered with that brand. And actually, to not belabor the point or make the intro any longer, I'm not going to go to their website because you can. Go to blackriflecoffee.com and get everything you want. I'm looking at it right now. It's got a Mother's Day sale going on, which is appropriate given that Mother's Day is right around the corner. But you know the deal. You can get coffee, the apparel, the coffee making things, coffee drinking things, all of those. And I highly suggest that you do. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about my guest today, Don Edwards. The coolest thing about hosting this podcast is that you get to meet amazing people. So I have a good friend, Mickey Schuch. He's been on the podcast twice, I think. He runs Carry Trainer, firearms training. My words, not necessarily his, if he wants to describe it a different way. He knows a bunch of cool people. He introduces those cool people to me. We end up sitting down across the table from each other, having a conversation, and now I know more cool people. So the wave tops on Don. Was in the Army, started off as a Ranger, jumped into Operation Just Cause, got to see some combat early on in his early 20s. Got out for a little bit, went the National Guard route, became a Green Beret, deployed to Afghanistan, over in Iraq as a contractor, was teaching at FLETC at the time, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, where you go to get your gun and shield as a federal officer, and then you can branch out from there. And he now runs a company called Greenline Tactical that teaches a variety of courses, pistol, carbine, and one of the things that he seems to be the most passionate about is low light, no light, night vision goggle courses as well. So when Mickey reaches out, of course I'm going to end up wanting to talk to this guy. He came up to Montana, so what do you know? We sat down, we chatted. Episode 333 with Don Edwards. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north and south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
You know what I realized today, Michael? I had consumed zero water all day before jiu-jitsu class.
That's a bold move.
You leave there a little bit like a sponge that's been left on the counter for about a week.
Yeah.
Go away on a trip and just, I'm dying.
Yeah. Well, I'm banking on the fact that this was made out of water.
I actually lie to myself. They say it's a diuretic, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know exactly what that word means, but I feel like it means a beverage that hydrates you. So yeah. I guess Michael could check that out.
One of my former team medics that became a PA, he might have just been telling me what he knew I wanted to hear, but he said basically tea and coffee, the amount of water that's in it kind of counteracts the diuretic effect of it.
Yeah.
So he's like, it's pretty much a wash. He's like, you're not going to hydrate yourself, but you're not going to die because of it.
Yeah, if I was super, super thirsty and had access to nothing other than an iced coffee, which this is a very obscure scenario.
But you do own a coffee shop.
I do, but I don't know why I wouldn't have access to water that's just in the tap right next to the espresso machine. Yeah, I would go with something coffee-based. Yeah. I don't generally use it as my main hydration source, but today was it's just one of those days you can feel a little bit more like leather than you do, a smooth flowing river of hydration. How'd you meet our mutual friend, Mr. Shooch, who was kind enough to introduce us?
We know each other just through the firearms trainer network. I'd say we kind of just know each other a little bit. Chat rooms type stuff, the internet. We've been in
chat rooms. That sounds very 1980s.
Yeah, but
dark and seedy.
Yeah, but they still exist. Do
they?
Group chats. How about that? It's the same shit though. No, just kind of like through the world, through the gun world.
Okay.
Stuff like that. And like I was telling you, walking over here, he's like, "Hey, we're both going to be at the same range next weekend." And we only saw each other enough to take a selfie and high five.
Yeah.
But I told him I was coming up here from there, and one night he's like, "Hey, let me introduce you to my buddy Andy, and maybe you guys do the podcast or whatever." And I was like, "I'm down. Whatever."
Hit me up. I was like, "Of course."
Yeah. So here we are.
Yeah. How long you been in that world? And for people who Mickey's been on the podcast, I think twice. Okay. I'm going to describe him as broadly a firearms trainer. He could give a much more precise answer.
Yeah.
How would you describe what you do? Because I know you teach a lot more than just the firearms specific stuff.
Yeah. I kind of self-identify as a firearms and tactics trainer and firearms industry consultant.
Okay.
Kind of thing. So I do work with different companies, either for design, whether it's firearms or other products. I'm heavy into the night vision realm.
Yeah.
So we T&E a lot of stuff like that, or also just kind of help with the marketing type stuff. Is me and the instructors that work with me are kind of industry subject matter experts when it comes to especially the night vision realm.
How is that evolving? Like when I left, we were using like aviation grade PVS 15s. The Panos came on shortly after. Mm-hmm. White phosphorus, it depends on who you talk to, whether they can see better or less strain on the eye, whatever it may be, better resolution. How rapidly is that world evolving?
It's it's evolving to the point where the actual quality of the tubes, the performance specs of the tubes are getting better and better every year, especially in like the soft community. Yeah,
because they're going to be a few generations ahead generally, right?
Yeah, and like we say generations, they're still on what's technically generation 3, but it's like anything. Cars are still cars. It's still an internal combustion engine, but every year we figure out a better way to make a better one.
And some of them have Apple Play.
Yeah, exactly.
CarPlay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Android listeners, just stop being such bad people.
Right.
Actually, that's speaking to Mickey because he refuses to have a blue dot on my iMessage thread that I have with everybody else.
That's right.
He's the standout green dot.
He's the reason everybody's green.
Yeah.
All Texas green. I hope he's hearing this right now.
He will at some point in time.
Yeah.
What I'm actually kind of happy I'm detached from the modern SEAL community at least.
Yeah.
How good are the tubes they're looking through now?
How long ago did you get out?
2013.
Oh, you would notice a difference.
Really? Just in clarity?
Yeah, just the clarity, what you would perceive as depth perception just because of all that. So in 13, you're in the beginning of the white phosphor tubes coming out.
Yep.
So all the benefits that you probably perceived there, we're seeing even better quality out of it. Panos are kind of the norm, I think, and I come from an Army SF background, so I'm not sure what the SEAL team guys are using, but I think a lot of those guys are into the Panos.
I think, it depends, hit or miss, I think. A lot of guys that I've talked to, not only gives you like another 15 degrees field of view, something like that, on either side.
On either side. So it almost doubles. It actually over doubles, because you only have 40 with binos, but you have like 90-something Panos.
Some of the guys I talk to, it's more of, they prefer to have just the lighter package.
A lot of guys I know.
Move your head around a little bit,
Right. A lot of guys I know, if it's going to be like supposedly, a quick hit of some sort, then the Panos are probably first choice. But if you're going to be wearing them for a long, long time, I know a lot of guys that are like, I just use the PVS 31s because they're smaller, lighter, not bulky on your face.
Have they ever truly dialed the fusion tubes?
Right now, the kind of the norm for fusion is the clip-on.
Okay.
So the add-on thermal, because it's
for people listening who are like, "What in the fuck are you guys talking about?" Fusion would be a combination of night vision and thermal.
Thermal fused together, right? And there's a device called the CODI, the clip-on thermal imager, and I say it's overall it's about not quite as big as 2 Bic lighters, and it's pretty lightweight, and it just kind of attaches to the front lens of your goggle, and then it projects that image right there onto the. You only wear it on one eye, but your brain fuses it all together,
Gotcha.
and it's really good. And you can turn it off when you don't want it, and you're still using your standard MBG and all that. So that's kind of the way right now, as far as integrated units. In my opinion, they're kind of bulky, and they don't do either one as well as they could.
Perfect. Sounds like a great military tool.
Right.
Made by the highest bidder on that particular item.
Yeah.
Have you talked with any of the modern era guys? Are they encountering any more night vision on the battlefield? Because as this shit proliferates, it's impossible to keep it out of the wrong hands.
Oh, I mean, you know that stuff's all over Ukraine now.
For sure.
And now it's just going to leave that battlefield and go everywhere.
And that's why I ask. I figure at some point in time
it's been, I'd say, a little while since I've actually had that specific conversation. But last time I did, yes, they were finding it on objectives and stuff. I don't know that how many guys have actually encountered guys fighting with it, but they're definitely finding it on objectives and stuff like that. And that's why some of the TTPs, as far as the individual usage of lasers and stuff like that, are starting to change, or just evolve.
Yeah, laser and light discipline.
Yeah, but we're no longer the only ones that own the night.
Yeah. Which sucks because it's kind of awesome when you're the only one who can see on a zero illum night.
I know, right? It's glorious.
It is glorious, and quite frankly, you don't have to be as tactically savvy. Not that you shouldn't always be like razor sharp edge. I mean, let's be honest; it gives you a tactical advantage that is sometimes almost insurmountable, I would say.
Oh yeah, being able to see in the dark is a superpower
for sure.
100%.
It is indeed. What do you find? So when you're doing your night vision courses, are you teaching mostly law enforcement or civilians, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix, but mostly civilians.
What is their stated goal with that? Are they trying to just be more well-rounded? Are they, I don't want to say playing Soldier of Fortune because people are going to take that in a negative way, but they want to be as current and capable as possible, everything in between?
I'd say everything in between, so the word LARP gets thrown around a lot. As
the
if
old
it's
live-action role play.
As if it's a bad thing. My position is that's exactly what the Second Amendment is for. So
for LARPing?
Well, LARPing is a byproduct.
I mean, I don't know if the Founding Fathers were like, you know what we need? We need a LARPing amendment.
Yes, we do. Well, the Minutemen were sort of LARPing. They weren't soldiers, but they trained like soldiers, and they were ready to, do whatever. So, some guys, it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
Some guys spend all their money on bass boats. Some guys buy night vision goggles.
What are your thoughts on training civilians on military tactics?
I have no problem with it. Like I said, I'm pretty absolute when it comes to Second Amendment type stuff.
Yeah.
So,
do you think though that your average civilian needs to be up to speed on SOCOM or JSOC TTPs?
They probably don't need it, and to be honest with you, I've been out of the game so long that I'm probably not up to speed on them either. So they probably don't need it, and they won't be. And because here's the thing, like I just did a 2-day night vision shoot house class down in Las Vegas. How much do you think can you teach anybody in 2 days when it comes to that stuff? Not a lot.
I mean, maybe top layer of the onion.
Yeah, so and those guys know it. They know enough to maybe not get hurt if they do it. But a lot of them, it's the experience. A lot of guys, it's the experience. They want to do stuff like that. They enjoy shooting.
Yeah.
They enjoy the camaraderie that comes with those classes. That's a huge thing for a lot of guys. They're guys who've formed lifelong friendships because they met at shooting classes like that and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not really for or against it. I think, as long as people's lives directly overseas are not being put at risk, or people who are on the front leading edge that would go overseas, I think there should probably be and I think most people intuitively do this, like don't give everybody the whole playbook. Don't print it out in a PDF like, hey, this is how a JSOC element would approach and prosecute this target.
Right.
I don't have an issue with people understanding how to I think people should be as capable and competent as possible.
Yeah.
I love my buddy Sean Evangelista. He owns 30 Seconds Out. Prepare to self-rescue.
Yeah.
You're your own first responder in the way that Glover or Tim Kennedy would put it.
Yeah.
Out here, you got, depending on where you live, you might have a good 30 minutes to figure some shit out before the lights and sirens show up.
If even, right?
Actually, it is amazing the thin veneer that almost every city works with on the number of public servants that are out there, fire first responder, LEO, it's thin. So, yeah, not against it at all. Where did this passion for LARPing come in? Your words, not mine.
Yeah. Well, I guess now that I don't do it for a living, I am LARPing too. So I don't do it that way anymore. But no, just over the years, I retired from 20th SF Group. Was a Ranger prior to that. So at some point, I started working doing training management type things and just realized that I really like teaching people the stuff that I've learned over the years and sharing that knowledge. And, I went from being a student to the guy that liked to share what I knew to all of a sudden now here I am. This is what I do full time for a living. And just so it was kind of an evolution. At some point I realized, this is really what I love. I love, especially since I'm too old to do the deal anymore. Yeah. I love being out there with guys. And, I do get to work with SWAT teams and stuff like that and guys who are still at the pointy edge or, tip of the spear. So, being able to help them share stuff that I've learned and, it's real rewarding, kind of work for me.
Where'd you grow up?
Central California.
Where at specifically?
Just south of Fresno, a town called Visalia, California.
Okay. I grew born and raised in Santa Cruz, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Cool, yeah.
What led you down the Ranger pathway? Where you were from? Hot as fuck in the summertime?
Yeah. Well, then I ended up in Georgia, at Fort Benning.
Ooh, yeah. Well, so that's hot and humid.
And humid, yeah. I wasn't used to that humidity.
It crushed me when I was on the East Coast. Yeah. I did not enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's the first time I ever had grits. And I thought it was cream of wheat because I'm a West Coast kid. I never heard of grits. And I eat this stuff. I was like, what is this? All the other kids were laughing at me.
It's good if you put enough sugar on it, in my experience. Brown sugar makes it delightful.
I know. Because that's how we grew up putting cream of wheat.
So, why the Army? How'd you find yourself in the Army?
I was a kid that used to read Soldier Fortune magazine and all that stuff. So it was just kind of like I was just kind of drawn to that. Wanted to be a Green Beret. You couldn't do that when you first joined the Army. So, I was like, well, I'm going to be a Ranger. Read all the Vietnam LRP books and all that stuff.
Long-range reconnaissance patrols?
Yeah.
What were those guys doing in Vietnam?
They were killing Charlie.
But were they out there, super small element, very very similar to like Mac v. SOG? By, with, and through?
Yeah, same kind of stuff. Your recon dudes were not necessarily, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. It's been a while since I've read and researched.
Because they don't exist anymore, right?
No.
Yeah, but they kind of did. They get rolled into the Rangers, much like the UDT got rolled into the SEALs?
Rangers, and yeah, kind of. Like after war, especially that was the tradition. Was all your specialized organizations would go away. Yeah. But the SEAL community kind of was one of the few that I think maintained.
Well, it did morph. World War II, it was all UDT.
Frogmen.
It was up to the hinterland. Yeah. Where they could write a little sign, "Welcome Marines," and cover themselves in axle grease with a Jacques Cousteau
and roll around in the sand and all that.
Dude. Like, okay, guys, here's the deal. We need you to go measure the depth of the water. Like, fuck.
It's cold. Smear axle grease or cocoa butter all over yourself. It'll keep you. Does that really work?
I've never tested it.
Really?
My understanding is that it can increase your survivability a little bit. Yeah. And you know what? I have seen this videos of people swimming the English Channel. They do seem to be coated in something when they do it without a wetsuit.
So it's better than nothing.
I think so. I don't know exactly. I don't understand the thermodynamic properties of axle grease. Or oil and that nature, but it is something that you see from people from those long-range swims. But yeah, the UDTs, I mean, they probably wouldn't have survived as the technology increased, so they rolled into early in the 60s. I think it was 1961 or 62. There was SEALs and UDT, and then eventually they became one. I bet you that same thing happened with the LRPs somehow.
Yeah, and a lot of the Ranger-type stuff after Vietnam was, Ranger battalions were always disbanded until they were, brought back in the 70s, and then just kind of stayed. So since then is the first time there've been like Rangers in peacetime.
How was your pipeline from boot camp all the way through Ranger school? Was it what you expected?
I guess. You just get up every day and do what you're told, and they kick you in the nuts, and in the back of your mind you try to remind yourself, well, they can't. They're not supposed to kill me anyways. Yeah. So I'll probably, as long as I don't quit, maybe I'll be there, at the end. I'm sure you have similar experience. It's like,
I just tried to focus on the day
Yeah.
that we were in, and at some point in time, hopefully that day would end, unless they figured out a way to stop time, which they would try to tell you that they had.
Right.
Yeah. The people who were the most successful were the ones who just kind of lived in the moment and got through the day and did what they were told and worried about that evolution and then moved on to the next one.
Yeah.
The ones that weren't there were the ones thinking about the totality
Yeah.
of this.
If you overthink it, you're going to go crazy.
The ones who I watched eject, and I didn't see this more until I was an instructor, I went back, because if you quit in SEAL training, you're just gone. Nobody, you're like,
Nobody cares.
well, and you never see the person again.
Yeah.
Because your training cycle continues, and I don't know what's happening to them, and I don't want to know. But as an instructor, you talk to them like, what's going on? I'm like, I couldn't be that cold for that long. I have 182 more days of this. I just can't do it. I'm like, I mean, that's one headspace.
Yeah.
Where you can take it a day at a time.
Yeah. But, I mean, when you were a cadre there and you'd already been in the teams,
Yeah.
right? So you got to look at that guy and be like, well, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
But you're obviously not the guy we're looking for.
I was always very respectful to the people who made the decision to quit. They're already in an emotionally compromised position enough. You don't need to be there just rubbing sand in an open wound.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it, the guys that either, they go through SF selection or, RASP or RIP for the Rangers or whatever, and maybe they don't make it, they choose whatever, they're still among the best soldiers in the U.S. Army just because of the fact that they're there. That they chose to be there, that they came that long, that they were selected to even get a chance to do what they did. So it's like, you're not a bad soldier.
Yeah.
You're just probably not the right fit for what we're here for.
As much as people want to think that humans are created equally, I think you and I can agree, based off of our own experience in selection courses, they are not.
Yeah, and I don't even know that I prefer not to necessarily use the equal thing. Is we're just different from each other.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it's like, it doesn't mean you're not as good as me. It just means we're different.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily a dude we're looking for this job, but you're really good at whatever else you do.
And I think that's
And
okay.
good luck.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I want the doctor who is, for whatever reason, out of the box, the most fine-tuned for that field. I don't want the guy who would be better served and is more fine-tuned for fixing holes in asphalt forced down that pipeline.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. How was Ranger School? How old were you when you went through?
Oh, shoot. I turned 20 in basic training, so I went off to school for a year. My heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And all that. So I turned 20 in basic. And then, I was at E3 when I went to Ranger School, because that's how they roll in the Ranger Battalion. It's like, you're never going to be like in any kind of leadership position until you get a Ranger tab kind of thing. So we were all E3s back then, private first class. It was, tough, but it was almost just like a tough day in the Ranger Battalion back then. Because I went to Ranger School in 88. Yeah, 89 is when I graduated. So back then, the life of an Army Ranger at the time was we were in the field all the time doing patrols and all stuff. So the same stuff we did in Ranger School was what I did every day. It's just I got less food and less sleep.
Yeah.
Was kind of how I looked at it. So it wasn't that, it was tough. It was challenging, but probably not as bad as it was for other guys that didn't really come from that life.
There's 3 phases in that, right? There's a mountain.
Yeah, they have Darby, which is at just outside of Fort Benning, Florida phase, which is swamp stuff, mountains. And when I went through, and I was one of the last of the classes to have a desert phase out in Dugway, Utah.
Why did they get rid of that?
I don't know.
In the modern era, it was pretty appropriate.
Yeah, you would think that looking back, maybe we should have continued on.
Yeah. Well, at the time, they're like, Vietnam was the last time, and screw it. Who's going to go fight in the desert? It's
right.
Like, oops.
Yeah.
Our bad.
Yeah. But then it probably had something to do with logistics and trucking people halfway across the country to go to Utah for desert phase when everything else was in the southeast or something.
Yeah. And then I was reading on your bio, you were in Panama.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How was that? How was the spin up for that? When did you guys first start hearing about that? And
well, it was interesting. Back in those days, what we called special ops training, where we did little birds and airfield seizure practice and all that stuff, was a once a year kind of like 3 to 4 week block of training. It wasn't something that now the guys do that stuff all the time.
Yeah, pull that mic a little bit closer.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
I lean back.
No worries. Just take it with you.
Yeah, I know. I got to remember. I don't have a boom mic.
No, I used to do those. It's like we're not helicopter pilots, so
yeah, true. We got to push the talk.
Yeah,
but
that would actually be hilarious for military members. Like have guys come in and you have to hit the push to talk.
It would be funny. I don't think the audience would appreciate it.
Not at all. No, especially since the guys would forget. And yeah.
But no, we've been doing this train up for it for various things, and even back
for
then,
Panama specifically.
Well, we didn't know that, but one thing that I was aware of, because at that time I was a E4, had graduated Ranger School. I knew that if we were doing a training mission on like an objective, that somewhere in the world there was an objective similar to that there was a plan that we might have to go to. There was no randomness even back then. So at the end of all that, we were kind of in the stand down mode. We finished our train up. It was an annual thing. We get alerted, and I tend to remember we were told that the last mission that we did, the training mission, that we really didn't, somebody in the chain of command wasn't pleased with it. So we were all kind of pissed off about that. So I immediately jumped to conclusions. I was like, they're going to make us do this again and I was pissed because we just wanted some downtime.
Yeah.
And, balls to the wall for weeks. And then next thing you know, it's like, nope, 18-hour sequence, and that's how it was. You get alerted. And the idea was 18 hours, you're either en route or, somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we started planning for it, and they started busting out the maps and back then there was no Google Earth, so it was all just old satellite imagery and stuff like that, and we're looking at drop zones and, my company platoon, we jumped into Rio Hato, DZ.
Okay.
And,
How was that?
Yeah. It was everything I'd joined the Army to do.
Yeah. You were literally a recruiting poster at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like, it was exactly what every airborne ranger wants, a combat jump, all that stuff.
Where did your aircraft take off from?
Fort Benning, Lawson Army Airfield.
So how long was the flight?
Man, I don't know. It's long.
Obviously, jock up
10,
in flight. They did not make you guys fly jocked up, did they?
Yes. Yeah, we were.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I forgot. We're talking about the Army here. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had these massive we were jumping Alice packs, and they were so overloaded. I mean, we brought way more ammo, but it's like we're never going to get a resupply. We don't know if we're ever going to get resupplied. Yeah, I'll take a triple basic load and extra 2 or 3 rounds in my rucksack, and all demo, you name it, we had it. We could hardly stand up with that thing hanging between your legs.
So you guys were jocked up for a combat equipment jump, leaving Fort Benning, Georgia, to jump into Panama.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
There was probably so much urine on the floor of that aircraft.
Dude. Oh, dude, there was at one point there was a 5-gallon jerry can being passed around.
Oh, of course there was.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it sucked. But I mean, it was C-130s fully loaded with jumpers, man. 64 jumpers
rolling down the strip.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
Just like all the cadences.
Yep. And then at some point in time, you're going to get the 6 minute or 10 or whatever it is. They're going to hook you up or stand up, hook up.
Yeah, it's like I can't wait to get out of this damn bird.
How was it? So, and this was a legitimate combat jump.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We were like somewhere between 350 and 4 something feet.
You're kidding. They went down to the combat minimums?
Low. Yeah, it was low.
Did you have a reserve on?
We had reserves, but we didn't have the safety retention lanyard wire, on it. So the idea was that would help you get it off quickly if you needed to.
Man.
And that was a decision that was made. Some of our senior jump masters were Grenada vets, and they jumped without reserves. And they're like,
at some altitude, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, and that was the thing is I think they just kind of had a committee of the senior guys and the guys that already had combat jumps.
Yeah,
and they're like, it's not going to probably hinder you, but we're not going to put the wire in.
Yeah, the pin.
Yeah, so that if you have to get out of it real quick, which when you're on the ground and there's tracers going everywhere, you want to get out of it pretty quick.
I feel like even at 400 feet, and I'm not an expert on the static line reserve, I feel like
probably not going to do much.
I think what it does is emotional support for the jumper.
Yeah.
It is. It's like you have a reserve. Cool. Because you're about to have a 7-second canopy ride.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit.
Did people get hurt on that jump? On just the jump phase? I ask because I know that maybe people won't like to hear this, but there is an acceptable amount of injury associated with military jumping operations. Mm-hmm. As the altitude you exit the aircraft from goes down, that shit goes up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure about that. I know I got beat up pretty bad because I don't know if you remember the old two-strap H harness
Yes.
for that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have a really heavy rucksack and you don't pull both of them at the same time, you're never going to lower that ruck.
Yeah, there's no way.
So one of mine got hung up, and
So you landed with your ruck
so
attached
I
to you.
rode that like 100+ pound, like tick.
Why wouldn't you? It's your first combat jump.
Oh yeah,
Get
I
some.
didn't know any better. Yeah, it's like let's do this, right? And so I hit like an accordion or something. It's like my chin hit something semi-metallic. It was probably my reserve.
Yeah.
And I just like I saw stars. I don't think I was knocked out, but I was damn near knocked out.
So I'm assuming it was night.
It was night. It was like 2 a.m.
Okay. Were the aircraft taking fire on the way in?
Some of them did. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them did, and there was actually a guy from one of the other platoons that took a round. He's okay. It kind of went between his pack tray and his back.
Under canopy?
While he was standing up and hooked up
Oh.
before he
Whoa.
ever exited the bird.
Oh, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
You're not even in the game yet.
Yeah, no. He didn't. he didn't.
Okay.
They flew back with him.
So you hook up, stand up, shuffle to the door. Jump master gives you the go. Talk me through the jump through what happened once you got on the ground.
Oh, dude, it's you just you count to 4, right? And all of a sudden, it was probably the biggest opening shock, hardest opening shock because
you were 3X.
I mean, I'm a skinny, 21-year-old airborne ranger, 22 years old, but I got a 100-pound plus rucksack and 4 Alice magazine pouches full of ammo. So I got a double basic load of ammo. It's just heavy as hell.
Yeah.
M203 vest in my ruck, full of rounds. And,
Yep,
and all
golden
that crap.
eggs.
So hardest opening shock of my life. Probably compressed some discs right then and there, and then like I said, I hit the ground like a sack of shit, and just immediately started trying to get out of it. And crap. Of course, what's the first thing you do?
When you hit the ground?
Yeah, you roll over, take a piss.
I would say wiggle my toes and make sure that
you
my
go like
bones
this.
were
Make
detonated.
sure,
That's my static line procedure. I lay there and I'm like, fingers and toes, let's work it up the body. Yeah.
And then hurry up and get out of that thing because you got to pee real bad.
Well, especially since you flew from Georgia to Panama straight, jocked
Right.
up in your combat equipment.
Right. And now there's shit blowing up everywhere and stuff.
Well, I was going to ask, what was your mission? So what were you guys tasked with doing?
So my platoon's job was to 2 things. There was the road going across the airfield, the Pan American Highway. We had to block that off so that the C-130s could land.
Okay.
And the C-141 stuff, they had the little birds and the guys with the Jeeps and the motorcycles and stuff
Were they
like that.
kind of circling overhead and waiting until
I
you
don't know
guys
if they
did
were
that?
circling or if they were just behind us a little
Okay,
bit.
delayed perhaps.
But and then there was some sort of fence supposedly along that road that we had to clear out of the way. And funny enough, this was 1989. We didn't have as much good intel and imagery, so we just assumed, hey, we're Americans. This is probably like a big chain link fence or something we got to take off. So we had guys jumping in quickie saws and stuff like that. So I was one of the demo guys for my platoon also. I was cross trained. So I had all this C4 and stuff so that we could do if the dudes with the quickie saws burned in, the demo men were up, And I get over there and finally link up with some guys and we're moving about, and I run into our company XO who had been my platoon leader. So we knew him, and he's like, "Hey, get over here and help me with this." And I'm like, "What are you doing, sir?" He's like, "I'm dragging this fence out of the way." I was like, "Where is it?" It was just rusty, shitty barbed wire fence, and he was like breaking the dry rotted wooden fence posts off and just dragging them out of the way. I'm like, "This is it? I jumped all this extra demo in for this?"
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. So we cleared the fence out of the way, and then we linked up with the rest of our platoon, and then set up a blocking position to actually plug the road.
Okay.
And then when I guess their 141s landed, the guys in the Jeep teams, the motorcycle teams came out, and they would push out beyond where we were. And we
How
just
long were you guys there?
So that was December 20th. We came home early January, so not even a full 4 weeks.
Okay.
We were there through Christmas, and early January we were redeploying.
How kinetic was it?
Off and on. The first night it kind of was, but not like what we're used to from the GWOT kind of thing. A lot of it was guys running the roadblock, and in my sphere it wasn't super bad. It was bad enough. We had a friendly fire incident with some little birds that we lost some guys, but not like when we say kinetic, 20 years ago I would have said it was pretty spicy.
Yeah, through the modern
but
lens,
after,
it's tough. Yeah.
After the past several years.
I tell you what, though, for people, I mean, I always tell people to be careful what they wish for when it comes
say that all
to
the time.
combat arms. You know, you had no combat up to that point, and
Right.
there you are doing the job. You were literally a recruiting poster, jumping in, airborne ranger,
Exactly. I know. Yeah.
and landing in a combat zone, experiencing combat. I mean, how was the morale and mentality of the organization when you guys came back from that?
Oh, it was. I mean, everybody
Top of
was
the world.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you didn't. The only people that had bad morale were the new guys that were waiting for us when we got back.
Who missed it?
Who? Yeah.
FOMO.
Oh yeah. Not just FOMO, but yeah. Now
Actual Mo.
Now you're the
the missing
you're the
out.
freaking cherries that weren't there. Those guys hated their lives because you talk about hazing. It's
Yeah.
like it's like, oh yeah, you don't have a combat scroll, do handstands, whatever.
Explain the difference between a Ranger tab and a Ranger scroll.
Okay.
Because pre 9/11, I went through basic airborne at Betting as well.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see the Army guys, the students, they would see a tab and they're like, okay, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
They'd see a scroll and they're like, you have no idea. That shit's awesome.
Yeah. So what we call the scroll is actually the unit patch of the Ranger battalions and the Ranger Regiment. So you have that basically signifies that you're in the
Yeah.
Rangers. And the Ranger school is a school, and completing that gets you the Ranger tab. And you don't necessarily have to be in a Ranger battalion or the Ranger Regiment to go to Ranger school. Like, I mean, you guys probably sent guys to Ranger school. I think I had a...
If I'm being honest, it used to be the punishment for DUI.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I had a SEAL in my... I know I had a force recon dude in my Ranger school class, but I think there was a SEAL
We consistently
in either my
sent
class
people.
or beforehand. Yeah.
Pre 9/11, I know we did. And
Yeah.
I'm not joking. It used to be the punishment for DUI.
Really?
Yeah.
But so I mean, you could even be a different branch of service. I think it was mostly combat arms, but
Yeah.
you didn't have to be, in the Ranger battalion. So basically, the difference is you went to Spartan school, or you lived the daily life of a Spartan. That's
Don't
kind
you
of
switch shoulders, though, if you had combat?
so in combat in the Army, anyways. You can wear on your right sleeve the patch of the unit you went to combat with. So
That's what the people in Benning were like, ooh,
Yeah.
that guy's legit.
combat scroll.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd see a tab, and I have nothing but respect for Rangers. They'd be like, "Pfft, whatever, it's just a tab." I'm like, I don't notice that on your uniform, just for clarity, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you don't even have one, then they both should be kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
to
maybe
you.
shut the fuck up, until you have one or both of those things.
Right, right.
So at some point, you transitioned, though, Ranger to Green Beret.
SF, yeah.
Obviously, it was after Panama. How many years were in between that?
Well, actually, I did a 4-year enlistment and just ETS'd and got out.
Really?
Yeah. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. I kind of thought I was going to go back and do stuff with the family business back in California, and that just really wasn't what I, the old "you should probably never go home" thing applies to me. And ended up moving over to Arizona. I was going to school, thinking about maybe doing the ROTC type of thing. Wasn't sure, and then going back in. At that point, I realized I really did enjoy the Army. I don't know why I didn't stay. I had no really good reason, except that I like to maybe blame the fact that the retention wasn't really they didn't put a lot of effort into that.
It's a different living environment, and I think that depending on where you are, it can grate on you. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to think, I've had enough of this, and I'm going to get out and do all these amazing things. And then you get out and realize,
why'd I do that?
I'm not as unique of a snowflake as I think I am.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't that bad. And how do I get back?
Yeah. So, and I don't know if this is a Navy culture thing, but when you, like the day you join the Army, guys are counting down how many days until they get out.
I think it would depend on why you joined.
Yeah. But it just seemed like that was a culture. It was just like how many days till you get out? 341 and a wake up.
I never experienced that in the SEAL community, and
Yeah.
I think I spent 14 days on a naval vessel in 17 years, so I can't speak.
So
at
yeah, I don't
all
know
for
about the
fleet
culture,
Navy. Yeah.
the rest of the Navy. But so
I
there's
wouldn't
the
be
kind of
surprised,
that.
though.
Yeah, there's kind of that where you just kind of like, what are you gonna do when your ETS is up, and staying in really, nobody was really trying hard to convince you to stay in. So I just kind of just assumed I was gonna get out. And I did. And nobody really tried hard to get me to stay until it was almost too late. I was like, my mind was made up, and I was like,
Probably had plans.
I'm 2 weeks, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to ask me why I'm getting out,
Yeah, that's a little bit too tight.
So
So how long were you out?
About 2.5 years.
Okay.
So I ran into this guy. I was going to school in Mesa, Arizona, community college, and there was a guy in a class before me, same class, who, you know, we're both wearing our old Ranger shirts and stuff, and he was like in 2nd Ranger Battalion, and he was getting ready to go get what do they call it? He was contract in a ROTC.
Okay.
And he was in 19th group on a team there in the Phoenix area, and he kind of recruited me to kind of fill his spot. And somewhere around in there, they disbanded the 19th, or not 19th, it was 11th and 12th group when it was reserves. And then they did away with those. And eventually I ended up in 19th and then 20th group, kind of that way.
So it was and I get super lost. I get lost in the Navy reserve aspect because there's like SEAL Team 17. It's a reserve component.
Really?
And again, the limit of my knowledge is that I know that it exists. I don't know what they do. And then, like my buddy Tim Kennedy, it was active duty for a time, but then he's like National Guard. I don't know if that means reserves. I don't know if all of those things count together.
The National Guard and the reserves. So, like the Army reserves are basically more federally controlled, and the National Guards are state by state.
Okay. So which was 20th group? Is that a National Guard or reserve?
19th and 20th group, which I think Tim's in 19th if he's still doing it.
I think so.
And our Guard.
Okay.
So
he is for sure, because I remember I was recently talking with him. How could I broadly say this without getting him in any trouble? There was an argument over federal versus state funding.
Yeah.
Because he was doing federal things on a state dime, and it pissed off the wrong person.
Well, I mean, that sounds like whoever cut the orders. Yeah. I mean,
we could go on forever on that one, but and that's how I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's at the National Guard.
If he's still in, I mean, there is only National Guard SF groups now.
Okay.
So there's 2, 19th and 20th. So yeah, I ended up moving to Florida and being part of that, and that's where I live now.
So how does that work? So if you want to join the National Guard, obviously you have to go through the Green Beret pipeline. Mm-hmm. So do you basically activate, and it is if you are active duty for that pipeline, and then when you're done with that, you pick up back on a National Guard rotation cycle?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. So a lot of the guys are like, I mean, a lot of guys get off of active duty. They're already SF, already Green Berets, and they just like, hey, I'm going to go, into civilian life, but I still want to stay connected, so I'm going to join the National Guard and still be a part of it. Kind of like guys from the Navy and the Reserve. It's I want to go be a reservist now. But if you're coming and you don't have any background and you're coming like off the street, there's an interview process. That's one of the luxuries that the Guard SF units have, is they can interview you, and you'll sit there with the sergeant major and the commander of the unit that you'll end up in. Huh. And, they can kind of be like, hey, this is what you're going to have to do. This is what we do around here. Then they may feel you out for a while. And then eventually you go off. And if you do it that way and you join like as a new kid off the street, you're like in the Army. You go off to basic training and you just go through that whole pipeline and you put on orders and the whole thing. And then when you come back, when you're done with all the stuff, if you come back successful, then you're 1 week in a month and all that stuff.
Okay.
But you're like fully certified,
Okay.
SF, you go to the same Q course everybody else did.
Okay. So you decided to go that path. How was the Q course?
I hesitate to say it's more academic, but we have the selection for a reason, and it is there to.
That's the SFAS.
SFAS, right? Probably not that unlike what you guys have with BUDS. It's the idea being you don't want to spend all this money and time and then have a dude fail something physical at the end. Front load all the physical stuff.
It's 100% what BUDS is.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, they learned their lesson. The Q course back in the day in the, Vietnam and post-Vietnam era was like they would have a major attrition rate. And you have a guy spend 9 months and then not finish. So.
That's rough.
Yeah. It's hard because now you got to start from scratch with a new guy. I say it's academic, and it was hard. I had to learn how to do like FDC for mortars and all that stuff. It's like I don't know how to do that crap.
What was this is not?
I was Bravo.
I was going to say sergeant. Delta. Yeah. I know is a medic because we used to say okay.
I was Agent Bravo, but it was fun.
What about language? Did they force one on you?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was aligned with 19th group, so I went to Thai language school.
Okay.
But immediately upon graduating, I moved to Florida and joined 20th group, so Spanish was our language.
Okay.
So, so I don't speak Thai anymore because I just never got to go practice it and whatnot. So, And now, guess what? I mean, we go places where, it's
Yeah.
Arabic, so it doesn't matter. You speak Pashtun.
Poor bastards who go to and again, I'm not a linguist by any stretch. The complexity of the languages in Iraq and Afghanistan,
Oh, yeah.
my God. For the guy who goes to whatever long course that may be, I feel bad for you because I'm sorry, grabbing the interpreter.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, I think there are some guys that just have that aptitude for language.
There are 100% are people that are.
And I'm not
It's the same thing. We're not all created equal.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily one of those guys.
Yeah. I struggle with English most days.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go there, ODA. It terminates with, what is it, Robin Sage?
Yeah, that's the final
Okay.
exercise. Yeah.
God, like Evan and, Hafer from Black Rifle or Glover from Fieldcraft, the
Yeah.
stories they have of that shit.
Yeah, that was weird. I remember, and looking back, like our first, my first trip to Afghanistan was 03, 04, so it was not too far into the original.
No, that's early.
Yeah, it wasn't. We weren't the tip of the spear, but we were some of the third probably rotation in
As Michael likes to say, you were on the shaft.
on the shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not the tip.
not the tip,
But
the,
you were penetrating.
yes, at some point. Yeah, no, I forgot what I was going to say.
You're talking about your first deployment to Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was
And
going to ask you, what year did you go through your Q course?
I went to the Q course in like 94, 95.
Okay.
timeframe. Yeah.
And then, so when you were doing National Guard, what were you doing in your off time when you weren't doing National Guard
So
stuff?
I basically ended up going full time working for the Guard. There's a federally funded counter drug program.
Okay.
So
Florida is probably a good spot for that.
Florida, every state has it to a certain extent, but Florida has one of the larger.
I
ones.
wonder why that is.
And so I was on like a reconnaissance type team for a while, and then I was detailed out to work with U.S. Customs for some of the interdiction type stuff.
So you were essentially active duty.
Yeah, for quite a while, and I was a training manager. That's how I got started really in the training stuff. I helped start up a program down in Florida for because it was that counter drug funded stuff. So it was a training program for law enforcement that we ran out of Camp Landing, Florida, and we were actually out on the range doing some foreign weapons training when 9/11 happened and stuff. So I was on active duty. I was active duty E7 when 9/11 happened.
Damn.
So.
How rapidly did you guys get spun up for that?
My battalion, what they did was they brought up 20th Group and said, okay, you guys are going to send a battalion. And I don't think it was the very first, but they were some of the early guys. And at the time,
How many people is that?
Battalion, that's 3 companies plus a headquarters.
How many people in a company?
Company has 6 ODAs of about a dozen dudes each plus a headquarters element. So
How about 100?
80.
Okay.
80 to 100 guys in a company.
Okay. So we're talking hundreds of people.
Yeah, a few hundred. So kind of what happened was everybody thought this was going to be like a one and done kind of thing, especially the Guard, right? So the Guard's like, hey, look, we need to spread the wealth. If we're only going to get this one opportunity to send guys to get this experience, so they basically every battalion sent one company, and then my battalion was chosen as the battalion headquarters. Well, I was not in the company that got sent on the first, the first wave.
Yeah.
So then we were now we were putting puzzle pieces together to get everybody else deployed when it became a rotational thing. But those guys went pretty quick.
Where'd they put them?
They were based out of Bagram.
Okay.
And then mostly, I think, what became, I guess, RC East, but I don't think they had RCs back then, if I remember.
No, I don't think they did at all.
Yeah.
Not for a few years at least.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what landed you over there for the first time? Where'd they put you guys?
I was in a place called Zormont, just south of Gardez,
Okay.
about an hour drive by
Okay.
dirt road.
I'm sure it was well maintained though.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was great. It was.
Probably no. Well, at that point, there probably were no IEDs on the road, but
Oh no, that was it was kind of starting to be that, but it was mostly like, it was very elementary type stuff. It was it wasn't that big a deal.
what'd they have you guys doing?
I mean, the standard mission: kill, capture, deny, sanctuary. But we had a partner force, and basically bring some sort of law to the land, and then our intel we would work our sources and stuff like that to try to figure out who's who in the zoo when it comes to bad guys. That was at a time where it was kind of quiet. It had just come off of where the rules of engagement were like if you're wearing a black turban, you're going to get shot.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people were laying low and whatnot. So
similar to Iraq when it first kicked off.
yeah.
Not very kinetic. I would almost call it, and this is not a very precise description, but it's like the butt sniffing phase. You see, hey, you're new here. Let's see what you guys do. We're not going to have a head to head yet. We're going to bring it at some point, though. We got to figure out how we're going to interact with each other.
Well, you come in at first, and there's a big fight.
Yeah,
and then
they're like, huh.
They used to have a saying that the dumb are dead.
That's true. I watched a guy one time shoot at a predator with an AK-47.
Yeah. Was it the last thing you ever did?
I don't think many of those people survive long.
Right. So when you look at it like that, when the dumb or dead kind of thing, I was there in a phase where the smart ones were trying to figure out how to lay low and regroup and stuff like that. So, we really kind of had to put our thinking caps on and kind of be hunters and stuff like that. And it was busy. That was in the days of every Thursday night we would get rocketed by random rocket fire and stuff like that. And, our outpost was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. How was your partner force?
They were okay. The Afghan National Army was baby at the time. They had only existed for maybe a year at that point. So they weren't well trained. They had American, regular Army guys that were kind of their advisor handlers that would show up with them. So it was kind of nice that if I needed something from them, we go to, the captain that was, in charge of them for that. So instead of having to go do all that, but it wasn't anything high speed. By the time I got to Iraq, we had some pretty good dudes to work with.
How did your rotations go back and forth between those two countries?
I did one full rotation, into Iraq and as a military guy, and that was, in the Guard you get mobilized for a year. Mm-hmm. So we were there for 9 months because they're gonna take advantage of the whole time they got
into Iraq. You were
in Afghanistan. Okay, and I was in Afghanistan when the initial invasion into Iraq happened.
Okay,
so we watched it on Al Jazeera or something like that.
Sweet,
breaking news. Yeah, no, we had the Haji satellite TV that we paid for somebody on the economy to install. So then I didn't go to Iraq until 2006, 2007 time frame. And it was spicy off and on. I was in a place called Samara and with Golden Mosque.
Yeah.
It was blown up a few times.
Yeah.
And whatnot. Never on my watch, before and after, but that's...
Yeah, there were times where both of those countries were pretty spicy. There were times where both of those countries were, I don't want to say passive, but we'll say less exciting.
Less eventful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so after Iraq, where'd your career and life take you?
After Iraq, I started actually working as a contractor
overseas. How many years were you at that point active?
At that point...
Had to be getting close to 20.
Well, time and service-wise, I was probably around 15, 16.
Okay.
Not all of it active. But I started as a contractor with a program called the Asymmetric Warfare Group.
What was the decision? AWG. What was the decision to leave active duty and go the contracting route?
Well, at that point, I wasn't active duty. So right after
still on the Guard. That's
right after 9/11, I was no longer doing the counter drug thing. I got hired at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and I worked
if you will.
I worked there at FLETC. So, and during my time, both of those deployments happened while I was, worked at FLETC.
So you already had your foot in something else at the time as well.
I was doing that. I was kind of at that point where it's like, if I'm going to do something that I might want to also retire from, I should do it before I get too much older, and so I can devote that time. But I'm soft, dude. I'm a Ranger. I just got back from the war. Driving in and out of the back gate of the FLETC was not very stimulating for me. So I started looking about, okay, what else should I be doing? And as soon as I started putting the word out that I might be interested in something, all roads kind of led to AWG.
So what was your job there?
AWG is kind of like embedded advisors for mostly Army. Mm-hmm. We had some guys that would work with the Marines. sort of troubleshooters, sort of advisors, gathering TTPs, stuff like that. I did that I was in that program for a little over a year. And then just because of budget stuff, I got moved to another program that was run by the same company with the Joint IED Defeat Organization. They call JET teams, which was almost the same job or a very, very similar job, only my focus on what I was like gathering TTPs was primarily counter IED based type stuff. So.
And for people listening, TTP means tactic, technique, or procedure. True. And I'm assuming you were talking about enemy TTPs, yes. Gathering information on those.
Right. Or helping develop ideas to counter those.
Yeah. It's a chess game for sure.
Yeah,
actually, probably more dynamic than chess, but move, counter move, I guess would be the
Othello.
Yeah,
multidimensional.
Indeed. So, and then you would deploy overseas with that role as well. And then, what was your role overseas? Because you're a civilian,
right?
But a contractor.
So I was a civilian, and I was armed and kitted out almost identically to how I would have been.
That's what I was going to ask.
I was an SF team sergeant.
What were your ROEs based on?
Well, they were called RUF, Rules for the Use of Force, as a civilian, RUF.
Okay.
And it was primarily self-defense.
What's the governing document for the RUF? Where do they come from?
That's a good question. We had a document that we had to sign saying these are your rules for the use of force.
Let's say you went outside of them. Who would you be held accountable by?
Good question.
Because ROEs in the military, you have UCMJ.
Yeah. I mean, in theory,
Geneva Convention.
In theory, you could be held accountable by the host nation government.
Okay.
But you like to hope that your own government's not going to let that happen.
True.
Depending on the severity of what happened, you could lose your job.
I ask about it because it's an interesting gray area.
It can be. It can be, especially if so it's one thing if you're a security guy or like a convoy security or something like that. But I'm embedded with infantry platoons, SFODAs, stuff like that. I'm on objectives with teams. And, preceding me, there had been guys who had actually kind of took over leadership roles.
No shit.
Well, I mean, think about it. You're retired Green Beret Sergeant Major or Delta Sergeant Major, and things aren't going well. Every 19-year-old's going to look at you for what to do. And when that lieutenant's not doing it, and at some point, it's going to be like, all right, guys, follow me. And at one point, I was told that my main rule was don't be number one in a stack. I was like,
that's bullshit.
Okay.
It's the only place to be.
Yeah.
But again, you're a civilian, right? Like, and I can understand what you're saying. Yeah, you get the CAG Sergeant Major. You get some, Green Beret Sergeant Major. Yeah. I know why guys would look at them, but that also undermines the military leadership infrastructure.
Yeah.
What a delicate thing to balance.
Yeah. I think some of those things happened early on in the war, and I think also some of them happened just because dudes were doing what they're wired to do.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, you almost have to stop yourself from doing stuff. From like, hey, follow me. Here's where we're going.
Yeah, but again, in that gray area, you need to stop yourself so you don't undermine the military authority.
Well, there's that. And it's kind of our job to be the guy that remembers what happened and wrote it down and come up with the lessons learned. I mean, it is exactly your job.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably by definition.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to advise you if you need me, and I'm here to collect enemy and friendly TTPs and
Yeah.
You know.
So how long did you do that for?
I did it. I left it for a little bit, but I'd say 6 or 7 years. About 2012 is 2012, 13 is when I kind of stopped doing that.
What are your thoughts on the balance between U.S. military forces and civilian contractors that are filling these roles that would largely previously have gone to U.S. military? I don't want to call them mercenaries, even though they traditionally, oftentimes people.
If you look at the technical definition, yeah,
Yep.
sure, at the base level.
And I ask because some people will say, this is how we should fight those wars. Oftentimes, when you follow the breadcrumbs back, you're like, oh, you have a direct financial benefit from using those. And I'm not here to argue for it or against it. I'm just curious your thought. My personal thought is if our current military can't execute the foreign policy, maybe we should change either our foreign policy or reman and equip our military to be able to do it. I get hesitant, the heavy reliance upon contractors.
Yeah. I think that the GWOT kind of, it changed the way we do a lot of things, just the way we occupied space, the COPs and the FOBs and stuff like that. They were little cities. So the kind of contracting that I did was very, very small compared to the guys that went around and cleaned the shitters.
Or how about the people who were serving chow in Bagram that were from Africa?
Cleaning the bathrooms, running the laundry, all these things that either the military doesn't necessarily have people whose that's their job. And, oh, by the way, maybe they should be doing their actual job instead of worrying about certain things.
That I would agree with for sure.
So and here's the other thing too. Say we have a contract company. As soon as they don't need us, they let us go.
Yeah.
And they don't owe us a retirement. They don't owe us VA benefits or anything like that. So from a business, I hate to say that standpoint, for the government, in some ways I think it makes sense because they can just say, okay, we don't need you anymore. Goodbye. Thanks for everything you did. Mm-hmm. All you got paid, and that was the deal. Whereas, they don't really owe you anything afterwards. They don't owe you that VA or disability. Or
I think there could be tranches for sure. Like you get saying, the people who are there running infrastructure, contractors. I mean, it was wild. I would talk to people serving me my grade F steak and shrimp at Bagram Steak Night. And once I saw those boxes, I never had it again. It said for prison and military use only. I'll never forget it. It's like, fuck my life.
Yeah.
And I should have known because it was a gray steak anyway because it was broiled.
Yeah. Can't you at least throw it on a over a fire?
But you talk to them, where are you from? Nigeria?
Yeah.
Kenya?
Bangladesh.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Kellogg Brown and Root organization is like, okay. And then there's the other people, running security, gunned up.
Yeah. Now, a lot of those guys doing the security are also working for another contractor company whose job is to do logistics. So the U.S. military is looking like, well, it's not our responsibility to protect you. You got to hire that yourself. And so there were so many different flavors of guys doing all kinds of things. And, the guys doing what I was doing could be numbered in the, dozens.
There was a lot of people making a lot of money around the U.S. war machine, for sure.
For sure. And it's always been that way. The military-industrial complex
it's a real thing.
It wasn't invented 20 years ago.
No. It was refined 20 years ago, though.
Yeah.
Again, talking about the whetstone going across the blade.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 2012, 2013, coming to an end of your contracting. What were you looking at doing next?
I ended up I came back, Greenline Tactical was a LLC that I started as a contractor because we were all independent contractors. Mm-hmm. And I had been doing some training classes when I was home, when I had free time and stuff. Not a ton, but a little bit here and there. And I had already had a background in doing night vision training and curriculum development from a company that I was partners in before. And I was already friends with the guy that owns a company called TNVC, Tactical Night Vision Company, and had a relationship with those guys. And when I kind of put the word out that, hey, I think I'm going to, I'd like to transition out of this, and I'm looking for what to do next, I got a job offer from Vic DeCosta at TNVC and started working for them full time. So I was his law enforcement government sales director and director of training. So I started up their currently their night vision training program. And I was still doing Greenline training, just not night vision. Mm-hmm. Once or twice a month, I'd do a class, maybe once a month or every couple of months. It was like my side hustle was training. And I can't remember how long. I say it's been about 5 years since I've gotten a W-2 from somebody else.
Yeah.
Other than like little consulting gigs that I've done.
It's very freeing and stressful at the same time.
Exactly.
I'm in the same boat. I describe it as you are in a prison, but you're the warden. So if you don't like the view, you can move the window. But when shit doesn't go right, you can't yell at anybody but yourself.
100%.
It's not as well. Again, I don't know how free exactly people would think it is, but I would say for most people, it's working for yourself is stressful as fuck. And it's not as freeing as people would think it is, and it's also incredibly freeing at the same time.
100%.
It's a horrible description, but
I cannot imagine like working for somebody else ever again, especially at this point.
I don't think anybody wants me to.
Yeah,
I would be a
horrible
nightmare.
employee.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd be horrible. But it's really cool. Like, I have a really good relationship with my last boss. I mean, we just had lunch together. He lives down in the Vegas area, and when I was down there, we every time we're around each other, we get together for lunch and stuff like that. And our relationship has changed because we talk as peers. I mean, we're old friends. We were friends before I was his employee, and we're even closer now because we're friends who are kind of peers in the same industry. So we have a lot of work stuff to chit chat about, and stuff. So it's fun. But yeah, it's stressful. You get up every day, and if you don't go chase something down and kill it, your family might not eat.
Yeah. For people
But-
who say, like, I can't work for anybody else anymore, I'm like, I know exactly how you feel. Be careful what you wish for.
just like that first taste of
Just combat, yeah. Yeah, bullets go both ways on battlefields.
Oh yeah. That first taste of blood might be your own.
Yeah, indeed. How degraded when you were working for that? I know that the government and military sales, I'm assuming that they can get a higher level of resolution or whatever it may be for the nods. How degraded is what's available to civilians?
Generally, not that much.
That's what I figured.
It's about the same. Now, I will say, like the companies, like L3 is the largest manufacturer of the image intensification tubes that are in your stuff. The stuff that JSOC guys are getting is reserved for them. It's not like restricted, but it's reserved.
Yeah, they just have a limited quantity, probably.
Yeah. And it's kind of a handshake thing. It's like we want those guys to have the best stuff, better than anyone else. But as that stuff starts to trickle out, what that tells me is now they're getting something a little bit better.
They have the sexier toy.
Yeah, so and it's just the tubes are the same. And how they're made's the same. They've gotten better at tweaking them so that they're getting much higher performance. Every few years, I feel like there's a jump in performance.
We used to always talk about going back to the Oakley Blades glasses.
Ooh.
Why
80s.
can't totally.
Yeah.
Just total Magnum PI mustache.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say
That's Kyle Lamb's look right there from back in those days.
God damn, yeah. And of course, pair it with Ranger panties or UDT shorts.
Hell yeah.
I mean, you're going to be beating pussy off you with a baseball bat.
I mean,
it's peak male athletic performance, I think.
yeah. Hoochie Daddy.
Michael, do you know what Ranger panties are?
No.
He's sitting over there completely lost
He's
in the
like, I have no
acronyms.
idea.
No, I'm looking at
talking
Oakley
about now.
Blades right now.
He's Googling Oakley
Luke,
Blades.
pull up some Oakley Blades for me,
Yeah.
and then pull up either UDT shorts or Ranger panties. And if I had to, oh fuck yeah,
Oh yeah, here we go.
these are modern era though.
Yeah,
Go 1990s Oakley Blades.
It says 80s.
Yeah, but I said 90s.
Okay.
Go 90s. Pretty much the same.
same.
That one right there, eBay in stock. That's what I'm talking about. Get another tab, Michael, and go either Ranger panties or UDT shorts. I'd actually like to see you pull up both because I want to know which one you would choose to wear. Fuck yeah. Get it. Now go UDT shorts. Okay. They're both, let me tell you right now, equally unacceptable.
Right. So
Oh, God damn.
all my UDT shorts, my scrotum would hang out to one side.
There was often, we would do like team PTs on Friday, and it's like, let's just do flutter kicks, and there's just bubble gum hanging out everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's
look
funny.
at that shit, Michael. Go to the picture to the right. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Frogman PT right
Yeah,
there. Huh?
so when I went through training, Michael, that's what we wore.
Yeah.
UDT shorts.
Absolutely.
So as a young man of,
Yeah.
what are you, 23 now?
24.
24.
Yeah.
You're getting ready to go on a
that's
date.
peak masculinity back
it
then
is.
right
On a
there.
date.
You're getting ready to go on a
Absolutely.
date. Your
Okay,
choice,
so-
you could wear whatever T-shirt you want.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you had to go, look at that. Look at the quads available, the
Yeah.
real estate there to just,
Pretty impressive.
it is.
So UDT shorts or Ranger panties?
God damn it.
Yeah.
I think at least Ranger panties have an internal liner.
They do. Yeah. Yeah.
So factor that into your
Yeah,
decision
UDT
making.
shorts
Well,
have
I'm
nothing.
going to go...
And you don't wear underwear because you're commandos.
Exactly.
We're commandos.
I'm
we don't
gonna-
wear underwear.
I'm going to free ball this one and go Ranger panties.
Yeah. So Tyler went to striking class on Tuesday. My middle son, he's 18. Ranger panties. Look at that. And he wore boxers underneath the shorts he was wearing. His boxers were substantially longer than his Ranger panties. And he somehow was just, he's like, yeah, you got to be mobile, you know? Like, yeah, can you be mobile to Target and get some pants where people aren't?
That's awesome.
This is what they put us in, Michael. This is peak
you can
male.
clearly see
peak
the
masculinity
dick
back
outline
then.
here.
Yeah. That's not an accident.
No.
No, it's like window shopping. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Go back to the Oakley.
Yeah.
So we used to always talk about why can't they just make a pair of Oakleys that's night vision goggles?
I know, right?
That's when, at one
That
point
would
in
be
time, sometime, and I don't know how they would do it because obviously they need to have the projection and the tubes and all that. But how bitchin' would that be? You throw in a set of Oakleys and everything is night vision. That's what I want to get to.
I think that's where they all want to get to, but I don't know.
You don't probably know. Well, you probably know more about night vision than me. It's not possible, is it? Because you'd have to have something And what people probably don't realize is when you're looking through a night vision tube, you're actually looking at a screen close to your eye. It's being projected on it. You're not
100%. Yeah.
The
You-
movies where people turn the lights on, they're like, I'm like, maybe because your eyes were used to the darkness, but they have an auto shut off switch.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and you're not looking through the goggle.
all.
You're looking at an intensified image that it created for you
on a micro screen, like
Right.
inches from your face.
Yeah. So the only way I think that they could do something like that would be like a heads-up display. It would have to be some sort of like see-in-the-dark camera, like digital night vision. And right now, digital night vision is not there.
Yeah.
The quality, the stuff that's good enough quality is not wearable. Let's put it that way. It's more like, truck mountable, not head wearable.
One day, though.
Someday.
One day, that will be what's issued to soldiers. And like, here is your night vision goggle, Oakley blades. And their life will be so much better than ours was.
I hope so. I hope I live to see that day.
I know.
Just seeing dudes run around being like, finally.
I'd be like, fuck you guys. You should have to wear weights on your helmet just to experience what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good, 12 hours a night for weeks on end, just neck crank from having nods on your helmet.
Well, I don't know if you guys, when you were doing it, were making a counterweight for the back.
We would out of the battery packs often.
Yeah.
We'd jerry rig the battery packs.
I felt that was so counterintuitive. I'm like, why would I add more weight to my helmet? So I was kind of against it, and I was like, well, that's just dumb. And then the first time I did it, I was like, I understand now.
Yes.
I understand now. It's not about the weight pushing down on your head. It's about balancing the teeter-totter.
Yeah.
And those muscles on the back
The
of your
torque on your neck.
that are just getting torqued all night long.
Yeah.
And,
It'll get there one day, I think.
Yeah.
God, that'd be so awesome.
There's people working on all that stuff.
Then you could go into combat, Michael, with Ranger panties or UDT shorts and just a set of Oakley blades.
Yeah. It'll be just like Fortnite.
Yeah. Which one do you want for Christmas?
Between the panties and the probably the Ranger panties.
You got it.
Yeah.
When's your birthday?
November 4th.
All right, basically you're getting a Christmas present then.
That's so awesome.
Some Ranger
Awesome
pants.
tribal tattoos as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you give me a tattoo voucher?
I'll get you a tattoo voucher. Yep.
Cool.
American flag bandana.
Yep.
American flag cups. Get some, boys.
Yeah. That's America right there.
It is. God. So what kind of courses do you teach?
Pretty much the gamut when it comes to firearms type, tactical firearms stuff. I'm not a competitive shooter, so it's all kind of defensive and tactical related. Like I said, the night vision stuff is kind of the flagship like types of classes. We have one called Night Fighter, which is it's pretty information intensive, but it's
What's a set of tubes cost for a civilian if you were going to go high end?
dude. If you're gonna go, I mean, probably about $10K ish. Tubes with in a good set of goggle housing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So that's an investment.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
But like I said, how much is a good bass boat? Some guys,
Comparatively a lot more than 10K, I think. I don't know shit
so
about
I said,
bass
a lot of
boats.
I know, but like a lot of my guys that are into all that stuff, I've kind of seen an evolution, and it's so much more popular now. It's so much more accessible. But you get the guys that they've taken training classes, they've got cool ARs and pistols with optics on them, maybe some long gun stuff, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what's next? Well, shooting at nighttime is what's next.
Yeah.
But we have about 4 or 5 different night vision type classes that we teach. One's called Dark Lab, and then I just did a night vision shoot house and stuff like that. And I put on a summit every year that is 3 days and nights. It's kind of like a big symposium.
Where do you do that?
Thing. This year it's going to be in Dilley, Texas, just south of San Antonio at a place called The Ranch.
Okay. I think I've heard of that place, actually.
It used to be like a ITI, and I think Blackwater owned it for a little while.
Okay. Probably a lot of real estate.
But yeah, they've got a driving track and
Yeah.
a 10,000 square foot shoot house and all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome.
But like this weekend, I'm here teaching a red dot pistol class. I do carbine stuff. I've got a couple of guys that are like really high level sniper guys that do sniper and designated marksman type classes and stuff like that. So I've got like 5 or 6 instructors that work 1099
That's awesome.
with me. So
What's the average client for you? I'm always interested in, and I bet you're seeing everything from soccer moms to the full on like Red Dawn.
most are just regular dudes that are kind of,
How many women?
I don't get a lot of ladies in these classes. We don't do.
Are you scaring them?
No, I think it's just we don't do a lot of entry level firearms or defensive firearms stuff.
Okay.
So most of my students are guys that have been either kind of serious about it or been doing it for a while, stuff like that. I'm not saying I don't have females, but there's only probably a small handful, and but they kick ass too.
Well, so my wife is a jiu-jitsu instructor. She's been a black belt for 9 years at this point, and she'll be the first to tell you it's not magic. And a lot of people come to jiu-jitsu and they want to learn about self-defense. And in itself, in my own opinion, it's not a standalone self-defense tool. You need to have striking and all these other things associated with it. But for women, and so let's say you get really good at jiu-jitsu, it's going to take you like 10 years. Mm-hmm. I really hope you have something that you can lean on in that time period. And for me, when women ask me like, hey, what's the first thing that I can do if I'm starting thinking more about self-defense, I point them towards tools because they level the playing field better than anything that I know of.
I mean, probably nothing levels the playing field for a female
Hell yeah.
better than a gun.
It's like, oh, you're stronger than me, faster than me, more athletic. Check this out.
Yeah.
It's like,
But now you got more holes in you than me.
yeah, you have a hydraulic fluid leak, sir.
Yes. Yeah, you're leaking blood and air.
I would love to see women pursue that as vehemently as men. I actually think it's more impactful for them than
And
it is
empowering,
men.
too.
Yes. Men traditionally are going to be bigger, stronger, heavier, and they're going to be able to impose your will unless you have something to stop them from doing so.
Yeah, and then along with that is the mindset. One of my instructors, it's not what he specializes in, but it's kind of a niche that he's fallen into lately. Is doing a lot of ladies type classes and stuff like that, and he teaches them, about pepper spray. And as a matter of fact, part of their take home is a palm pepper spray, and he buys the inert ones and lets them spray them so they understand what it's going to be like when they have to do that. And then they do defensive firearm stuff, and it's he's a really good dude, and he's really very easy to get along with and stuff like that. But and you've got a lot of ladies out there that are doing a good job at that too. There's some real good female defensive firearms instructors out there, but there needs to be more of it. I'm not gonna disagree with you at all. The cool ninja stuff is fun, but that's mama bears need to be better equipped and trained.
I think more than anybody.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a 6 foot tall guy, low 200 pounds, float between I've been over 200 pounds since my early 20s. We'll call it 205 to 225. I can generally stop people in their tracks just by yelling at them if I wanted to. It's not something I test regularly. So for people listening, fucking calm down. I'm not out yelling at people. Yeah. We have plenty of crazy people in Kalispell doing that. Our number one dude now has 2 bullhorns. Not Michael, but I know he posted recently on his Instagram.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, he stands there now with
guy?
2 bullhorns, and he's just and you get the static that you think you would get with 2 keyed up. It's amazing. He stops people in his tracks, but also I can make people cross the street too. Women have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
The number of people that my wife has had come to find self-defense after they have already been put in that situation is disturbing.
Yeah.
It sucks, man.
Yeah.
So hopefully there is a good foundation and fleet of people who are out there. And I think there should be companies that don't specialize in the initial and companies like yours that maybe specialize in the layered approach of the wedding cake, adding more stuff on top of that foundation.
Yeah. I mean, I like it when I get, some of the ladies there. Some of them are wives that, are into it also or whatever. And I had one, and she and I have been friends for a long time because her husband's been one of my students and alumni for a long time, and we cookouts at their house and stuff. And she's taken classes like them together. And I was doing a red dot pistol class down in Florida, and she basically declared to him, "You're watching the kids next weekend. I'm taking the class with Don." And because she's like, I need to sort this pistol thing out. She's like, she could shoot. She knows how to shoot. But she's like, I need to learn more about fighting with this thing.
I like that.
Yeah. So I was like, great.
Watch the kids,
And I
buddy.
had 2 ladies in that class. Yeah. And I had actually 2 ladies in that class, her and another one.
Yeah. I totally support that type of stuff. What's your favorite class out of all the ones you teach?
Man, that's a good question. The one I'm doing this weekend is really a lot of fun, red dot pistol, because once guys start to understand the concepts that I'm teaching, it becomes a pretty esoteric type shooting course, and guys really see a lot of improvement in their shooting. I also enjoy doing the shoot house stuff because just tactics are kind of, it's
fun.
such a thinking man's game.
Yeah.
And I love it when guys start to understand the nuances of, why you need to clear that corner and why you need to move to this point of domination and just things like that. It's like, oh, okay. It's not just flow into the room and do whatever kind of thing. That's a hard question. It's like asking what's your favorite kid, right?
I could tell you off air. No, it is an impossible question. I mean, which kid do you love the most? Like you love,
Yeah.
You can't even describe how much you love your kids. So yeah, it's an impossible question.
But
for
so
sure.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy it all that I do and that we do. It's just like I said. So there's more times than not I'm driving back from back to the hotel or whatever from teaching class and just kind of like feel like I'm floating in the seat of my truck, just like man, I had a good time.
Yeah. What do you think you'll do after you hang it up, or do you think you never will?
I don't know. Hanging it up means I got to be successful enough to do that. So I'll probably just be working till the day I die. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. This is what I love.
Yeah.
If I won the lottery, I would probably still do this or something similar. I love being in and around the firearms industry. Period. Some of the companies that I've consulted with or worked with and stuff like that, I've made lifelong friendships. So I really do. I really think I would still do something similar. Yeah. In the same like realm, if you will.
So Fridays I do Q&A episodes. People submit Q&A questions via email, via direct message, all that stuff. I get asked all the time about self-defense, and I try to answer. If I get like a bucket of questions, I'll try to pick one from it because it can kind of knock a dozen or so off. Yeah. I get asked all the time where people should start when it comes to self-defense, specifically with firearms, and even inside of that, like how do I pick a gun? Yeah. Where do you start people if you had a empty white piece of paper in front of you, and let's say a husband and wife approached you, where would you start them?
Man, I mean, I have in the past taught some more entry-level defensive classes, and could do that. I would say find yourself a firearms instructor. I was going to say that's like well known, but there's a lot of really good guys that are just local. But do your research. See what kind of reputation he or she has. As far as buying a gun for the first time, it's not that I'm like a super Glock guy, but Glock pistols are so simple and easy to, shoot. There's nothing really to them as far as complexity goes. Yeah. So
price point's manageable too.
Yeah, they're not super expensive. 9mm is
everywhere.
It's everywhere. Modern defensive, and duty type ammo is just as good in 9mm. I mean, there's virtually no difference than in 9, 40, and 45. So, and 9mm is more manageable by most people. So it's but a good modern striker fire type of pistol with a reputation. There's SIGs aren't bad pistols, but like I said, Glocks are almost impervious. They just work. They're boring.
I've seen people make some very interesting flare pieces, real statement pieces out of Glock.
Oh yeah,
stipling, colors. Like, wow, that's literally chrome. Okay, yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. Cerakote, yeah,
all of it.
I've seen them made to look like Nintendo guns and stuff.
See, that's actually a problem because cops have to deal with that shit and discern that in real time.
Well, most guys that do that, it's just they've got so many pistols, they want something unique and.
Until they leave it in their cup holder on their truck and somebody takes it.
Well, yeah, that's a responsibility. But, so back to your question.
Well, in that, so they find a gun. There's another question I get too. Mm-hmm. How do I know when I'm ready to go from owning a gun and working at a range to carrying it for my own protection?
Yeah.
And that's a tough one to answer.
Yeah. And I would say you should seek out somebody a trainer of some sort, somebody that has a reputation, if it's a good reputation locally to you. They don't have to be a nationally known guy or whatnot, and somebody that also talks about mindset and stuff like that, because starting to carry a gun is a big mindset shift for a lot of people. And some people are nervous about it or afraid. It's like, oh, what happens if I shoot myself? Well,
nothing good is the short answer.
But or whatever. People get nervous about it because they're unsure of their own abilities, and if they haven't had any training, they really don't have much in the way of ability. So they should be unsure of it. So a guy that can help, guide them through some of the mindset stuff, but not be like yelling at you, that kind of mindset, but kind of like understand, this is what it could be like. But you can safely carry, you can safely shoot, you can safely, defend yourself and your family with this firearm. Guns aren't that hard to operate. People are.
If you follow some very basic principles that we had ingrained to us since probably the first time we ever touched one, they're drastically safe.
Yeah. Well, not only
start
safe,
deviating from those, they become drastically unsafe very fast.
They can be.
Yeah.
But they're also pretty simple to operate.
Yeah.
And as humans, we know how to use tools. We invented tools. And if you look at it as, even a person who really has no idea how it works could figure out that this thing that the bullets are in fits in the handle.
I have seen it put.
They're going to go out. Yeah.
It doesn't stick.
For the most part, you can do that. And they go out this end, obviously. And this thing looks like a handle. Oh, this little switch is the go button. Okay. You could figure it out pretty well. If you can use a cordless drill, you can use a gun, probably. And you could figure that out and at least make it go bang, right? I could, here's a friend of mine actually used to use this in class. Be like, it's really kind of simple. You look at it like this. Let's say I gifted my mom a Glock 19 years ago for Christmas, and she never touched it. And all of a sudden she calls me up and like, somebody's trying to break into the house. What do I do with this gun? I'd be like, okay, take that thing with the bullets in it. Make sure they're facing forward. Put it in the handle. Grab the handle. Grab the top. Pull it all the way back and let it go. Okay, see that trigger? Put your finger on the trigger. Point it at the door. If he breaks through the door, pull the trigger. Extend, touch, press.
You really could actually do that, yeah.
Could do that over the phone. That simple. And now, is she a good shooter? Is she a proficient shooter? No. But could she? People with zero training defend themselves with a firearm almost every day or all the time.
Yeah.
But
that's the power of that tool. That's what I'm saying. Especially for women.
But with a little bit of quality training, it gives you the confidence that you can do that, or you at least believe you could do that, and it gives you the skill that yes, it's more than just I picked it up and used it for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So and it's like anything you do. After you do it a few times, your familiarity, that habitual relationship with that as a tool. We come from a background where we spent a good bit of our lives with one of those in our hands.
Yeah.
So it's like
it demystifies it for sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people a lot of their hesitation, and I think a lot of the narrative that you see. God, it's amazing to watch politicians hold up weapons and describe them inaccurately. It says a cyclic rate of fire of 6,000 rounds per minute. It's like, what?
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, I used that for almost 20 years, and I never found that setting.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Shoot, man. I feel robbed.
Yeah. It just, for me, and this is a rough comparison, but for me, weapons like that are like a hammer and a carpenter's belt.
Yeah.
It's not magic to me. I understand why it can scare the living shit out of people. They should show it that level of respect. But it can be demystified, especially if you do it appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like any tool. Another example that I use is, the reason you want to train and practice with it is, think about it like this, a carpenter. Let's say a guy who's framing houses. Well, back in the day, they actually used hammers and not nail guns. And if a dude could sink that nail in one swing, normally just set it and then sink it all the way in. Say he hammered 1,000 nails a day. If he had to swing twice, that's 2,000 swings that he had to make. That's very inefficient. So he didn't have to, he's reaching into his belt. He grabs a nail. He doesn't look at it to make sure he's holding it in the right spot. He just knows, right? He grabs his hammer off the belt, and he doesn't have to look to make sure he's holding it. He feels it. He knows it. He's got this hammer in his hand all the time. So he's very proficient with it. The more we train with our firearms, our defensive tools in general, whether it's knives or whatever, the more that habitual relationship is developed. and you're much more proficient with it, and you can think about the other elements of your defensive situation or your tactical situation. You don't have to worry about, can I shoot this gun? Do I know what I'm doing with it? Kind of thing.
Yeah, if you get into those environments, that's actually the last type of a round of questions you want to be asking yourself. Do I know how to use this thing?
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered anybody in your courses that, I don't know how to describe this because I guess I've seen this in more from a social media perspective, not directly my personal life, but it is people seeking out active shooter situations because they want to be the person running to the sound of the guns.
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, good. I'm coming to the more that my litmus test for what's real and what isn't. Some of the shit you see on social media, like even though it's kind of bombarding you, I go through the litmus test of I've never met anybody who actually acts like that
In real life.
Yeah, so maybe it's not as pressing as whatever this thing is trying to get me to believe that it is.
I mean, I think online some guys do.
There's
puff up their
there's
chest
chatter
a little bit.
Yeah,
But yeah, in real life, especially guys who train.
yeah.
I mean, there are guys who have decided, hey, look, if I need to, I want to be ready and both with the skills and the mindset.
That's different
just in
than
case.
looking for it around every corner.
Yeah.
No.
Sometimes when guys are kind of new and they're like, I got to have this mindset. I got to sit with my back to the wall everywhere I go and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That
Or
gets
maybe
old.
you could just calm the fuck down.
Yeah, that gets old
Yeah.
after a while. It's like you can't be hypervigilant your entire life.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be aware and situationally aware, and any dude that or any person that is kind of defensive or self-defense oriented or whatever should be paying attention. But it's like, yeah, I can't read a menu and be like,
Even though we
can you imagine if you're out to dinner with your wife and you're like, you're afraid to make eye contact with her because you're looking around the room all the
she
time?
wouldn't be my wife.
Yeah, she'd be like,
what the fuck is
chill
wrong
the
with
hell
you?
out, dude.
Yeah, she wouldn't be my wife anymore.
Yeah.
She'd say, you need to knock that shit off.
Yeah.
And having said that, I am very protective of my wife. We were up in Canada the other day, and we were walking by some people who I believe, Michael, what's the current term for being homeless? Housing challenge?
Unhoused.
Unhoused.
There were some unhoused people who were, and I'm going to make an assumption here, experimenting with methamphetamines at the time. And this lady is got a fucking knife out and sharpening a stick. And so I moved and walked to the other side of my wife.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. I'm not looking. I have no interest in engaging with this person.
But you just put yourself between her.
That's all it is. And we go and she has asked me. She's like, "Do you want to sit? Do you want to sit there because to have your back on the wall?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to.
Yeah,
it's gonna be okay."
Yeah, it's like, no. If somebody comes through the door, you'll tell me, right?
Yeah, because she's also situationally aware as well. She, I don't know. Half the time she probably sees stuff before I do. It's just. I understand it, but man, you have to find a way to be able to manage that and unwind it. Otherwise, you're going to be at a stress level of 10 until you burn out. Yeah. I just don't think that's sustainable over a lifetime.
Yeah, it isn't. It isn't. And also, I mean, I understand, especially some guys when that's kind of new for them or whatever. And I'm not talking about dudes who are having maybe PTS issues or something like that where you can't help yourself.
Yeah.
There's that also. But
the vast majority of them can help themselves.
Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress should resolve itself.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Dudes coming back and
they got to put the work in though too.
They're still dealing with it. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things you probably almost always have to continue to maintain.
Don't get me wrong. I probably pay attention at certain times far more than I should. And I remind myself, hey man, take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a wrap off.
Oh, yeah.
Or
you'll find yourself sitting somewhere, especially when you're by yourself and you're, sipping your coffee and you're like, and you realize, you know what? I'm situationally aware. I don't have to be like.
Yeah. Pull up your phone, turn on the camera app and the little circle thing that has it face you and be like, hey, man, you need to calm down. What the fuck's going on here?
What are you doing here?
Give yourself a little pep talk.
Just chill. Just chill out, dude. And realize that, especially guys like us who spend most of our life kind of in that environment. It's like you are situationally aware.
Yes.
You are. Probably it's more intuitive than some of us give ourselves credit for. So it's like, yeah.
I have, I think you get a little bit of a better ability to read people's body language too. Mm-hmm. You're kind of out there. I can't stand predators. I just want to fucking smash them. And I think you get you have a little bit of an enhanced ability to pick up on that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the one thing I just can't stand.
Yeah.
Bullies and predators, it's like, all right, motherfucker, let's do this. And you might win, but we're going to do this.
You're probably not going to win. You're probably not.
Yeah, I
You know?
can't stand
Yeah, a lot of those guys, they're tough guys because they prey on innocent, helpless people.
Yeah, I have zero tolerance for that.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we just connected at a different level.
I think most of the people that we used to work with have the same. I think it's one of the driving factors, whether it's recognized or verbalized. I think it's one of the driving factors.
Yeah. And having understood that I've lived the life of a predator, but a different type of predator.
I was hunting other predators.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Totally. I know we're getting close to, because I know I got to get you back. You're up here. We're good.
I'm having a good time.
What other courses do you have coming up, and where can people find them?
I do have a designated marksman type class coming up in a next weekend.
Is that like another code word for long range shooting?
It is. It's more like SPR type guns though. So it's scoped rifle, ARs.
Okay.
Not sniper stuff, not really bolt gun stuff.
I mean, your average police sniper shot is 77 yards, so it could be.
Right. Yeah. Well, we run ARs out to 500-600.
Yeah.
I
mean, that might be bouncing off a T-shirt, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. I mean, all we're trying to do is make it go ting
Totally.
on a piece of steel downrange.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still wouldn't want to get shot with a 5.56 at 600 yards.
Optimally, I would like to never get shot.
Exactly.
People say, hey, would you rather get shot up close or far away? Like, is there a third option where it does involve me getting
How about
shot?
neither?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd say the biggest event for this year is in November, the summit that I was talking about. But Greenline Tactical is the company, and we've got a pretty busy schedule.
Yeah.
Always something. I'm all over the country. There's no like home base range or anything like that. Like I said, I live in Florida. I'm out here in Kalispell, Montana.
Putting miles on your truck.
But yeah, wearing out rubber.
Yeah. At this phase in your life, what are you the most excited about? What fires you up the most? Outside of the passion you obviously have for teaching people and being on the range.
It fires me up. I do love what I do. And the people that I get to hang out with and do stuff with. I got, a great family back in Florida that, it's like I can't drive.
Tolerate your bullshit.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I got a 14-year-old son that, we don't seem to get enough time to hang out together. So, when school's out, we might actually do some stuff out on the road together and stuff.
I'm here to tell you right now, throw him in the car with you.
Yeah.
And he may not even express that he likes it, but he'll fucking never forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about him, like, if I'm out here, I'll put him on a plane and fly him out.
Yeah. Yeah, he might get tired of the road trips. And I do remember my father, perhaps allegedly, because I'm not sure of the statute of limitations, letting me learn how to drive earlier than allowed because of the duration we needed to drive.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. It's almost time for him to get some driving lessons, and he's got
terrifying.
He's got a 17-year-old sister, so
my daughter nuked 2 cars in the course of 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I don't think my daughter's ever wrecked. She's probably hit a few curbs, but
no, there might have been curb involvement, but in one of them there was a telephone pole in addition to the curb, and the other one was a car.
Yeah.
So the lessons we learn along the way. I look back now, I understand why my parents described aging in dog years.
Yeah.
My God. Couldn't love them more, could not be more fucking terrified every day that they leave the door.
Oh, yeah, because you love them so much. It's like...
And they're going to do the same shit that you and I did.
Well, they're
going to push every boundary that we did, and they have like these new boundaries that
there are dangers out there that didn't exist.
I agree. Yes,
and
it's like a hockey stick. It seems like, and I bet you though, every generation of parents is like,
100%.
All of a sudden, it's like this.
Our parents felt the same way. They're like, it's not the same world.
We didn't. Our parents though didn't like have to worry about fentanyl. They didn't have to.
Yeah.
That shit scares me to death. I saw alcohol and weed when I was growing up in high school. I'm sure there were social circles that were getting deeper into that. Some of the stories from my own kids that are very honest with me about some of the things that they have seen. Like imagine a group of teenagers, and I shit you not, playing pill roulette. A bunch of pills in a bowl, and you take one and eat it.
And see what happens.
Fuck. Wow. My parents did not have to worry about that. One of those pills could terminate you 6 feet under for sure. That stuff scares the shit out of me.
That's crazy.
And I don't know how to solve that. Other than beat your children. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Never let them out of the house. Chain them to the floor.
You know, I
What?
mean,
no, none of those are good solutions.
The only answer I have is mentor them and coach them and teach them what right looks like and how to make good choices.
Yeah.
And then trust them.
I agree.
Let them know that they can always call, and if they're in a situation, you know, especially my daughter, because she's out, you know, more. You know, my son's not driving or whatever, but she knows, like, I'll pick, you know, before she had a driver's license, I'll pick you up, I'll come and get you. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna make sure you're okay, and you know, if there's something to talk about, we can talk about it in the morning.
Yep.
But you know, I'm not gonna, you know. The last thing I want is for her to be afraid to call dad if she's in a situation she needs help.
I have the exact same, I was going to say rule, but that's not it. It's the exact same
policy,
concept, philosophy with my kids as well, too. I would so much rather them be open and honest with me. And again, we can talk about all the other bullshit later.
Right.
Let's get you home safe. I'll get your friends home safe, too. If they
100%.
need to, a safe environment, I will take care of them as well. Yeah. Slap the shit out of a kid as long as they're 18 and up for behaving inappropriately.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm the dad that she and her friends call when they need to jump start a car.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I show up in my truck and jumper cables and all that stuff.
Yep. My middle son he blew a tire on his car and he called me and he thought I was going to do it. And I showed up and talked him through it. Like,
that's great.
I don't think you understand how this works. You're about to learn how to do this. I'm going to help you.
Yeah. Here, I brought the jack.
Totally.
I got
Actually, of course, it was in the car. He's just like, what do you mean I have a jack in this car? I'm like, we are having a teachable moment right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Give me the website one more time. And do you play it all on social media?
Yes.
Okay.
So the website is greenlinetactical.com. And Instagram, same, Greenline Tactical. I'm on Facebook, too. There's a company Facebook page. It's all Greenline, Greenline Tactical. You can, on the website, if you want, you can sign up for a newsletter that we try to send out, you know, weekly or every other week with updates and stuff like that. We have some cool little bird helicopter shooting stuff coming up, too.
Hell yeah.
We do. It's a blast. Somehow I've figured out how to keep doing this stuff for a living. You know, I'm in my 50s, and I still get to ride around on little birds and shoot at them.
So are there just civilian organizations that have little birds that fly around?
I've partnered up with a guy out of Florida who's not too far from me called Airborne Tactical Training Solutions, and he owns 2 little birds.
Good for him. You son of a bitch.
He's one of the few guys that's even like legally licensed by the FAA to have benches on the side and for people to fly on them.
Oh, that makes sense. That would be an additional.
Yeah. So,
I know a civilian who owns a Black Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is awesome.
And my guy probably knows him because he just posted a picture of him flying with.
Yeah, it's Dave Sparks. It's not
okay,
secretive.
Now I'm thinking this guy. Yeah. He's down in Florida.
There's a couple of
Cletus something.
They know each other for sure. Yeah, I think they got their type
all the
rating
helicopter
together.
dudes know each other.
Yeah,
they all know each other.
Can you imagine having a fucking personal Black Hawk?
I couldn't afford the gas for that thing.
I couldn't either. But god damn,
I know what it costs for 4 hours of flight time on a little bird. Because I have to write a check for that thing every once in a while.
What is a little bird per hour has got to be $600 to $700?
Oh, it's more than that.
Is it really?
It's more like $2,500, I think.
Stop it.
I can't remember exactly.
Okay, I wanted to get a little bird.
I pay for the whole block of time, which includes it arriving and all that stuff. And
I wanted a little bird until you just quoted me $2,500 an hour.
Yeah, helicopters are not cheap.
No, they're not.
I mean, there may be less expensive ones, but I mean, this thing is like exactly. I mean, you would.
Yeah, you can't beat the MH6.
It looks like just one that the 160s to be flying around on and stuff, and it's a blast, and we have all kinds of fun on it. And,
hell yeah.
I mean, it's serious business, and you know, we shoot guns from it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
We do it with nods too.
Cool, man. Let's get back to your host. Thank you for taking the time today, man.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yeah, of course.